A rocky hillside marked with in a remote region of Yugoslavia. Pilgrims who come from all over the world, some of them fasting on bread and water. They come in devotion to the one known as the Queen of Peace. Many believe that the Virgin Mary has been appearing to some young visionaries every day since the summer of 1981 and is giving them messages for the world. This is a story of revelation, a place of unbelief, a call to peace confronted by the politics of atheism, a revival of faith which has revived a bitter religious conflict. The claim that the Virgin Mary is appearing in this poor Catholic parish has already drawn an estimated 4.5 million people.
Senti un po' Maria, non ti stanca questa vita qui? Ero questa sera.
The story takes place in Yugoslavia, the country which separates Western Europe from the sterner regimes to the east. This is the Republic of Bosnia-Herzegovina, a crinkled landscape of rivers and mountains. These hills hold memories of ancient warring kingdoms. Today, 3 cultures are yoked together under the state socialism created by Marshal Tito after the war. There are Muslims, Serbians, and Croatians, whose roots lie in the 3 faiths of Islam, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Roman Catholicism. In the Constitution, there is liberty of conscience and worship, but a strict separation of church and state limits the freedom of religion. The parish of St. James, Međugorje, consists of 5 small hamlets with a population of 2,500, mostly peasant farmers. They're Croatian and staunchly Catholic. Though religion is banned from the classroom, the feasts and fasts of the church are woven into the calendar of village life. The young visionaries grew up in a world of faith. Every evening, pilgrims gather outside the small room in the parish presbytery where the apparitions occur. At about 20 to 7, Maria Pavlović and Jakov Cholo have their meeting with the Queen of Peace.
Doživljaj se ne može opisati, to jedino treba doživjeti. A kada imamo viđenje, imamo posebnu radost, koja se isto tako ne može opisati riječima.
I taj nam je trenutak baš najvažniji od svih ostalih. Važniji ne znam od bilo čega, od bilo kojeg drugog prijatelja, jer taj nam trenutak najljepši i želimo što duže ostati s Gospom.
The Madonna says through the visionaries that these are her last appearances in our time. They're certainly the longest series ever recorded, having gone on uninterrupted for nearly 6 years. The apparitions began in the midsummer of 1981 on the feast of St. John the Baptist. The Madonna made her first appearance on the hill Podbrdo, one of the hills that cradles Međugorje. There were 6 young people who saw her: Maria, aged 16, and Jakov, just 10, Vicka Ivanković, and Ivan Dragitrovich, both 16, Ivanka Ivankovich, who was 15, and Mirjana Dragitrovich, 16. Ivanka had lost her mother a few months before. It all began when Ivanka and Mirjana went for a walk in the late afternoon at the foot of the hill Podbrodo above the hamlet of Bijakovići. As they passed the hill, Ivanka paused.
Vidim lik, oblik. Ja sam rekla Mirjana, eno gospe. Govorim Mirjana, ma hajde, gdje će se nama gospe ukazati. Nisam ni dan danas svjesna kako sam to mogla reći. A sam...
Ja ne znam, ja nisam ni sanjala da tako nešto može biti. Da može gospa i još nama dvijema, na primjer, baš iz čitavog svijeta. Kada ona to meni rekla, ja prvi put taj nisam htjela da gledam ubrdo. Mada sam po njoj primijetila da se nešto dešava, jer ona je bila blijeda, i molila me. Ali ja sam mislila, to je, ne znam, znala sam, išla sam u crkvu i vjerovala sam u Boga, ali da može se gospa ukazati to baš meni, to nisam vjerovala.
Not sure what to think, the two girls continued their walk and eventually made for home. A few hours later, they set out again, intending to help a neighbor with some sheep. This time, they left a message for some friends to join them.
Čak nismo ni klekli, ni počeli moliti, ništa. Jednostavno smo ukočene, stajale i gledale u nju.
Among the friends who followed the two girls were Ivan and Vitska. Seeing them transfixed, they were frightened. Then they found that they too were drawn to gaze up at the hill.
Imala na sebi sivu haljinu, bijeli veo, kruna od zvijezda, oči plave, kosa crna, jagodice rumene i ovako vliko lebdila u zraku na sivom oblaku, nestaje na zemlju. I stalno je nešto u lijevoj ruci je držala i stalno nešto otkriva i pokriva, znaš, a ništa ne moreš ni vidjeti šta je. I ona je nas prvu večer zvala, ali od nas niko nije smio da ode. Bilo nas je strah i tako smo otišli kući, nije niko išao napred.
The next day at the same time, the four teenagers, followed by curious friends and relatives, returned to the same place under the hill. This time, two others saw the Madonna, Yakov, the youngest of the six, and Maria.
Ja sam mislila da se meni Gospa neće ukazati, nego da ću ja biti tu s njima. I onda kasnije jedan moment vidjela sam samo konture Gospina lika. I onda kasnije, kad je poslije nekoliko minuta, vidjela sam još više, bistrije. I onda sam kasnije vidjela kao što su i oni vidjeli.
In the following days, the group found the courage to go up the hill, and the Madonna began to talk to them. In perfect Croatian, she announced that she was the Blessed Virgin Mary sent from God with the gospel message of conversion. She had come to Međugorje because there were many faithful believers there, and she had chosen these 6 children because they were ordinary and average.
Gospa nam je rekla da uvijek ne traži najbolje. Znači, normalni smo, nismo najbolji, nismo najgori.
Ovakvi kakvi smo, baš smo joj trebali, jer nas 6, koliko nas ima, svi smo različiti. I po karakteru, i po ponašanju. Nekako kao da nas je skupila, jer smo joj baš svi takvi trebali.
The parish priest was away during the first few days of the apparitions. The assistant priest dismissed the whole business. He thought the children were perhaps on drugs and were hallucinating. But within a few days, thousands of devout and curious visitors were flocking to the hill. Many were in tears, and some fainted as they watched the young people in ecstasy. But with the crowds came trouble. Gatherings for worship have to be regulated here, and this coming together was unauthorized by state or church. The children were taken off repeatedly to be examined by doctors and interrogated by the police. Attempts were made to break up the crowds and to prevent the evening gatherings on the hill. News of the apparitions reached Sarajevo, the capital of the Republic of Bosnia-Herzegovina. There was instant alarm. A senior politician asked what would happen if a bomb were to be detonated on the Hill of Apparitions. In this city, which had witnessed the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914, there were genuine fears of a right-wing plot being hatched in religious disguise. Filip Simic, the Vice Secretary of the Executive Council of the Republic, believed that there were subversive elements present in Međugorje.
Svakako je neko želio da iskoristi i one svrhe koje mi nazivamo političke svrhe i zloupotreba vjerskih osjećanja građana. Činjenica je da su neke snage neprijateljske prema ovom društvu. Bilo da su one unutar zemlje, bilo da su one izvan zemlje, pokušale da se nalijepe uz to vjersko okupljanje dolje. I da su one pokušale da sada iskoriste fenomen viđenja za svoje političke ciljeve. Pojavile su se parole, kao na primjer Hrvati na okup, pa nacistički znaci tamo i tako dalje. Sve što je, dakle, sve je upućivalo na to da to neko želi politički da zloupotrebi.
The burden of coping with the situation fell on the recently appointed parish priest, Father Jozo Zovko. He had been away during the first few days conducting a retreat. He returned to find milling crowds and uncontrolled excitement, his normally quiet backwater parish flooded with the fervent and the curious from miles around, and watching them, suspicious government observers.
Osjećao sam odgovornost, pa što ovaj ljudi traže Boga u nabrdu, a Bog ih čeka u crkvi. Bog nas čeka u sakramentima. Bog nam se nudi, Bog govori, nije on nijem. Što ćemo praviti od svoje vjere spektakle? Tako žalostan, promatrajući rijeka se odljeva s lijeva nabrdo, ostajao sam sam.
The 8th day of the apparitions, Wednesday, the 1st of July. Father Jozo, in his anguish, was praying for guidance. The police came to the hamlet of Bijakovići, searching for the visionaries. They wanted to stop them going to the hill. The visionaries fled. The police followed the children into the vineyards. The children found themselves moving further and further from the hill. Beyond the fields, there was only one possible place to hide.
Ne znam kako sam molio, ali skoro kao da sam htio upozoriti Boga na nevolju koju nosim u srcu, zajedno s crkvom. Znam da to nije bila molitva zahvale, već tjeskove i istjeskove, ali Bog je uslišao, to znam. Tada sam čuo glas koji mi je kazao, ljudski glas, kao što se sada čuje moj glas. To nije bio unutarnji glas, samo unutarnji glas. To je bio glas koji je odzvonio životom mojim. Idi i zaštiti djecu. A poslije ću ti reći što ćeš činiti.
Father Jozo went to the door of the church to find the children pleading with him to hide them. Sure now that he was being guided by God, he concealed them in a room in the presbytery while the police continued their search. That evening the children had the apparition as usual, but safe on church property. The visions of the hillside had come into the safety of the church. Every evening from then on, the community gathered to pray. The apparition took place, and then there was Mass, with powerful preaching as the clergy expounded the Madonna's messages. Through the children, the Madonna was calling for peace. Often she appeared in tears, pleading for reconciliation and prayer. She urged the faithful to confess their sins and to fast each week on bread and water. The local bishop, Pavel Janic of Mostar, visited the parish several times. Preaching in the church on August the 9th, 1981, he reminded the congregation of earlier apparitions of Mary, most notably at Lourdes in 1858 and at Fatima in 1917. He was impressed by the devotion and discipline of what he saw in Međugorje. But the authorities were still alarmed. It was impossible for them to accept that the huge crowds and the prophetic preaching did not cloak some subversive movement. Confrontation seemed inevitable. One evening at the Mass, Father Jozo Zovko preached about a man who was oppressed by his past sins for 40 years and then found salvation. Government observers in the congregation took this as a denunciation of 40 years of socialism. Their suspicions had roots in the hostilities of the last war. In 1941, a Croatian fascist state was formed here with strong Catholic ties. For the few years of its existence, the Catholics inflicted hideous atrocities on their Serbian neighbors, who were Eastern Orthodox. A few miles from the site of the first apparition, hundreds of Serbian women and children, including small babies, were rounded up, marched to the top of this cliff, and thrown to their deaths. The idea that a Croatian Madonna had appeared so near to the site of such butchery inflamed fears of a revival of Catholic nationalism. To preach in 1981 about 40 years of oppression could only be seen by a nervous government as political provocation. A police van came for Father Jozo at 7 a.m. on August the 17th, and he was taken into custody.
Možda u svojoj podnesenosti, a pomalo, sasvim sigurno, iz jedne svoje lične opredjeljenosti, političke opredjeljenosti, on nije odolio tom porivu unutrašnjem da pravi razne insinuacije na račun ovoga društva, da i on počinje da ga pomalo optužuje i naravno da je to bio čin direktnog narušavanja ustavnosti i zakonitosti i zloupotrebe vjerskih osjećanja građana u političke svrhe.
In October, Father Jozo was tried and sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. But what, for the authorities, was a precautionary measure against a potentially troublesome priest, was for the visionaries another cross to be borne.
To je bilo jedno posebno iskustvo gdje smo svi osjetili jednu duboku žalost. Naprimjer, Jozo je bio s nama baš tih dana i prihvaćao poruke, želio živjeti s nama. I kada je jedna osoba s tobom, kad imate isto mišljenje, to je veliko. I onda je jedan moment gubiš je. Ali to smo prihvatili stvarno kao jednu žrtvu, iako nam je bilo teško, stvarno smo prikazali Gospod. Onda Gospod nam je rekla da se ne brinem.
The accusations leveled at Father Jozo put the Bishop of Mostar in a difficult and delicate position. The wider church looked to him to make a judgment about the apparitions. as it had looked to the local bishops in the cases of Fatima and Lourdes. Was he prepared to give official approval for organized pilgrimages to the hill where Ivanka and Mirjana had first seen the Madonna? As a former pilgrim guide at Lourdes, Bishop Janic had no intellectual difficulties with miracles or with the fervent devotion they evoke. He had himself visited many shrines of Mary. But, as a shepherd of the flock under an atheist government, he was also responsible for the credibility of the church. With one priest under suspicion, he had to tread carefully. In a statement issued in the summer of 1981, he came down firmly on the fence. He defended the integrity of the children, but at the same time recommended extreme caution.
Jer sam sklon da vjerujem u mogućnost čudesa, ali u isto vrijeme sam uvijek bio strog prema svim pričanjima pobožnih žena, vidjela ovo, doživjela i tako dalje, jer takve njihove fantazije, često puta i halucinacije, pomalo ubijaju ugled i vrijednost Fatime, Lurda, Isusa Krista, i onda nam mogu reći, vidiš kako ste vi krivo vjerovali, ako bi se dokazalo da je bilo krivo, što uvijek može se dogoditi da oni koji danas govore da vide, mogu do 10 godina reći nisam ništa vidio.
In spite of the bishop's misgivings, the apparitions and the messages went on. The Madonna by now was confiding 10 secrets to each of the children, which included warnings of future world chastisements. She also prophesied that Russia would come to glorify the name of the Lord. The West, she said, had advanced civilization, but lost God. She promised that when the apparitions ended, a visible sign would be left on the hill of her first appearance. On Christmas Day, 1982, Mirjana received her 10th and last secret. Her daily apparitions were now over, though the Madonna consoled her by promising to appear on her birthday and at times of special need. In March 1983, the bishop set up a theological commission to help him form a judgment. The Madonna began to recommend earnest prayer for the bishop because of the heavy load of responsibility he was carrying. Though the church hadn't made up its official mind about the apparitions, thousands of believers were still pouring into the parish, looking to the visionaries for inspiration and instruction.
Maria, ci puoi dire qualche cosa del giorno della festa della Madonna lunedì, che era la attività?
5 agosto chiedo, anche noi aspettiamo, come ieri la Madonna è venuta con tutti i
sorridente.
Sì, ieri è stata, anche quest'ultimo tempo è sorridente.
Bene, c'è qualcosa di buono.
Questi messaggi che la Madonna tante volte ripete, che sono per tutti, sono sempre preghiera, digiuno, confessione, conversione e santa messa. E sempre la Madonna chiede e vuole come ognuno di noi vive questi messaggi.
Grazie Maria, tanto. Noi preghiamo per te, tanto.
Preghiamo per altri.
The spiritual welfare of the parish was now in the hands of Father Tomislav Perevan. He mounted a vigorous defense of the apparitions.
Zapravo kad promatram cijelu povijest crkve, povijest spasanja i povijest objave, onda vidim da su ukazanja bila uvijek temelj vjere, kako kod Mojsija u starom, tako isto kod Isusa u Novom Zavjetu. Isusova ukazanja nakon uskrsnuća bijahu temelj vjere za apostole. Apostoli su nakon Isusovih ukazanja povjerovali Gospodinu i to je bilo za njih startno paljenje crkve. Crkva je nastala rodila se nakon Isusova uskrsnuća i uzašašća i nakon Isusovih ukazanja apostolima. Jednako kroz cijelu povijest crkve bila su prisutna ukazanja u ovom ili onom obliku. Ukazanja ili Isusova ili Majke Božije ili svetaca, pojedinim mističarima, pojedinim svecima koji su nakon tih svojih iskustava kasnije zapaljivali crkvu, dakle išli u crkvu i crkvu obnavljali. To se može kroz cijelu povijest crkve točno slijediti.
The bishop's commission expanded its membership and delayed its report. Meanwhile, distinguished visitors, many of them from Rome, were coming to Međugorje to look into the events for themselves. The children were submitted to new medical and psychological tests. They were found to be healthy and sane. The results also suggested that the children could not be deliberately lying. Some took this as confirmation that the apparitions were authentic. Others pointed out that the fact that the children's experience was genuine could not confirm or deny that the Virgin Mary was causing it.
Kad Gospod dolazi, to isto kao da kad smo s Gospom, kao da lebdiš u zraku, kao da nikako nisu uopće na zemlji. I nema te riječi da bi mogao da kažeš tako i tako.
Ako smo pričali o nečem lijepom, onda je imala zadovoljan izraz lica i lijepo, kao majka, normalno. A ako je bila neka ružna priča, na primjer o nečemu što nju boli, onda je i ona imala, kao i svi ljudi u ostalom, žalostan izraz lica.
The visionaries' testimonies were collected and written up by visiting scholars, journalists and theologians. Most reports carried stories of other unusual phenomena which had been observed in the parish. This stone cross stands opposite the Hill of Apparitions. It was erected in 1933 and is the focus of an annual pilgrimage in September. People claim to have seen it change into a column of light or into a form like that of the Madonna herself. Others say they have taken photographs which seem to reveal a glimpse of a supernatural presence. Many people claim to have been able to look into the sun and to have seen it dancing. This was also reported on the last day of the apparitions at Fatima. Not everybody sees the miracle.
On će im reći, vidiš, potkrepljuje vjeru svoju sa onim što ni sam ne zna ili što nije istina. Zato kad i posižemo za ukazanjima kao argumentom, moramo dobro promisliti je li to možda kontraargument. Pa da nam kažu, vidiš, na temelju čega si ti vjerovao. I zato vrlo treba biti oprezan, vrlo oprezan.
As at Lourdes, there are reports of inexplicable healings here. A recent example. Agnes Heupel came to Međugorje with a number of physical and emotional problems. She was unable to walk unaided. She was present apparition. Her doctor's report states that since Mrs. Heupel witnessed the apparition in Međugorje, she has been completely cured.
Die Heilige Messe ist für mich irgendwo eine ganzheitliche Begegnung mit Christus geworden. Mhm. Dann ist es für mich ein ganz anderer Umgang geworden mit Menschen. Es war früher so, bevor ich also hierher gekommen bin, habe ich sehr große Probleme gehabt, weil ich das Vertrauen verloren hatte. Durch viele Probleme in der Familie und auch mit Freunden, die dann ja gehen, wenn man krank wird, meistens wenigstens. Und das hat irgendwo einen ganz anderen Stellenwert bekommen. Ich habe innerlich sehr viel Frieden und Losgelöstheit erfahren. Es ist so, dass ich damals nicht verzeihen konnte.
Also es ging jetzt willst du sagen, du kannst verzeihen.
Das fällt mir leichter.
Ja, und das ist eigentlich die Botschaft hier,
ja.
Also Versöhnung.
Nicht, dass das jetzt abgeschlossen ist, sondern dass das Ganze ein Weg ist, der vor mir liegt.
Ja, und du lässt für mich diese Dokumentation, ich werde sie nur noch schauen. Möchtest du deine Kirchen zurück mitnehmen nach Hause?
Nein, die lasse ich als Beweis hier.
Schön.
In 1983 and 1984, the Bishops' Commission made slow progress. Each member worked individually and reported back to the bishop in confidence. But now a new issue came into prominence, which reopened a 100-year-long battle within the Church of Herzegovina. The bishop asked the Franciscan order to suspend 2 young friars. They were hindering his plans to increase the number of secular clergy, that is, clergy who did not belong to a religious order. The 2 friars visited Međugorje and asked the visionaries for the Madonna's guidance. The reply suggested that the bishop had acted hastily in recommending their dismissal. Behind this incident lies an old conflict known in the church as the Herzegovinian case. For 4 centuries, this area was under Turkish rule. Many Christians converted to Islam. It was the Franciscan order that kept the Catholic faith alive. To this day, the brown-robed friars of St. Francis are seen as a symbol of Catholic and Croatian identity. In 1878, the Turks lost power here and the area became part of Europe again. Pope Leo XIII tried to restore the normal pattern of church life by appointing non-Franciscans to work in the parishes. The policy was greeted with bitter and sometimes violent resistance. The laity would not accept the new secular priests, and the Franciscans were reluctant to give up their prestige. This was the situation faced by Pavel Janic when he became bishop. The Madonna's reported answer to the young Franciscans rekindled the old conflict with the secular clergy. Father Petar Vuletic is a secular priest in the village of Domanovici. For him, Međugorje and all that it stands for is a clear example of Franciscan arrogance and manipulation.
Moje mišljenje da je vodeći dio Franjevaca u našoj biskupiji iskoristio Međugorje da potvrdi svoj otpor biskupu s obzirom na provođenje dekreta pape Leona XIII. O raspodjeli županija. Inače, taj slučaj poznat kao hercegovački slučaj. I moje duboko uvjerenje da su oni Međugorje iskoristili da bi svoj otpor nekako potvrdili. Tako da obični svijet kaže, eno i Gospa je za fratre.
The bishop's commission did include a Franciscan representative from Međugorje, Father Ivan Dugandić.
Ali pojedini od početka su neozbiljno shvatili posao u komisiji. Pojedini su bili toliko opterećeni predrasudama da su u stvari na tim našim sjednicama se više bavili hercegovačkim slučajem nego pojavom ukazanja u Međugorju. A to su 2 fenomena koja se moraju itekako dobro dijeliti, razlikovati jedan od drugoga.
But the commission would not keep the issues separate. There was a serious question of authority at stake. No one doubted that the apparitions were possible. What struck most members of the commission as suspect was that they should have occurred in a Franciscan parish. Voting was secret and the results were never officially published, but it was rumored that the verdict was that the visionaries' claims were false. The bishop moved quickly to restrict activities in the parish. The apparitions were banned from the church, and the Madonna has since appeared in this study bedroom in the presbytery. Priests opposed to Međugorje felt that they had been vindicated.
Moje osobno mišljenje je jednako mišljenju ove komisije. Da doista u Međugorju nema ništa nadnaravnog. Osobno sam bio 2 puta tamo. Vidio sam svijete poboža, moli se. Svećenici tamo jako lijepo organiziraju liturgiju, pjevanje, propoje posebno i tako. Ali smatram da Gospa nimalo više nije prisutna u Međugorju nego je ovdje u mojoj župi Domanović.
Dear brothers and sisters, dear pilgrims, I don't have words to express this deep conviction that I see in you, in your presence, a miracle. In your presence here, I see a blessing.
Though the local clergy had reached theological deadlock, the story of Međugorje continued to fascinate the faithful.
The presence of the Blessed Virgin Mary here.
Jozo Kraljević is a businessman and ex-language teacher from Mostar.
It would be preposterous to say that the children have been telling lies all these 5 years, making a fool of the whole world. They are too simple, too innocent, too unsophisticated for something like that. And after all, we have to ask the question, why should they be doing that? Is it money, perhaps? Oh, no. They resent being offered money. Is it fame, maybe? No, they shun publicity. A better life, maybe? Oh, you know, people have been besieging them for 5 years now, pestering them, allowing them no moment of peace. Well, why should they be doing all that? And if their stories were false, then they would have been discovered long ago, unmasked. So the only conclusion, the only plausible answer to this whole phenomenon is that the children are not lying. They must be seeing something. And this brings us to another question. What is it that they are seeing? Well, I found the answer in the Gospel. A bad tree can't produce good fruit. And I think it is I'm sure it is Our Lady here who has planted this good tree in this rocky soil of Međugorje. And this tree has already outgrown the local boundaries and overshadowed the whole world, producing many a good fruit.
Where is the room of the apparition?
Here, please. This is 25 meters here in this house.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. I will come back and see if that's on.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The reasons for coming here are as many as the people who come. Curiosity, devotion, gratitude, confusion, disillusion, hope. The many ways of seeking God. The faith of the pilgrims is now as much part of the story as the mystery at the heart of it. It is evening. Just before 6:45, Maria Pavlovich and Yakov Cholo prepare for their meeting with the Madonna.
I Sina i Duha Svetog, amen. Oče naš koji jesi na nebesima, sveti se ime Tvoje, dođi kraljestvo Tvoje, budi volja Tvoja, kako na nebu, tako i na zemlji. Kruh koji jesi na nebesima, sveti se ime Tvoje, dođi kraljestvo Tvoje, budi volja Tvoja, kako na nebu, tako i na zemlji. Kruh naš svagdanji daj nam danas i otpusti nama duge naše, kako i mi otpuštamo dužnicima našim. I ne uvedi nas u napast. Veliča duša moja Gospodina i kliče duh moj u Bogu mome Spasitelju, što pogleda na neznatno službenice svoje. Oca ćem evo svi naraštaj zvati blaženom, jer velika mi djela učini sve silni, sveto ime njegovo, od koljena do koljena dobrota je njegova, nad onima što se njega boje.
Naprimjer, nije samo ova župa, nisu to samo njena djeca, jer ona je to mnogo puta nama ponovila. Nismo samo nas 6 njeni, nego čitav svijet. I zato, na primjer, zbog nekog tamo daleko negdje, koji je nevjernik, ona plače zbog njega i moli nas da molimo za njega. Jer njoj je svaki u ovom svijetu njeno je dijete.
The spiritual revival, purged of political overtones, has won guarded acceptance even from the executive of the Republic.
Da li pojavila ili nije, tim problemom država nije preokupirana. Ona je suočena sa jednom drugom činjenicom. Ona je suočena sa činjenicom da tu dolazi dosta svijeta poneseno svojim religijskim uvjerenjima. I ako je to tako, a tako jeste, onda mislimo da su ljudi koji dođu u Međugorje, bez obzira odakle dolazili iz Jugoslavije ili iz bilo koga kraja svijeta, dobro došli, jer mi smo potpuno otvorena zemlja.
Though the government now welcomes foreign pilgrims, visitors find conditions fairly primitive. This frail bridge takes all the traffic in and out of the parish. The authorities say they can't afford to strengthen it or do anything to improve the overburdened roads. Many of the villagers are expanding their houses to take in guests. They hope to make some profit from the tourist boom. The government too is cashing in. A compulsory rate for rooms is charged, 60% of which goes to the local tourist board. The pilgrims have brought the wide world here. They've given a sense of pride to people whose lives have been mostly struggle. But the cost of being chosen is real. Even those who have benefited are not without some regret. Jasminka Ostojic, a cousin of the visionary Maria, runs a soft drink stall.
Mislim, kao ljudi prije su dosta bili smjereni, staloženi i sve. A sad je to kao sve užurbano, kao da negdje žure, negdje trče, za nečim, ali nikako nisu kao smjereni da bi imao vremena posvetiti se, na primjer, jedno drugima i tako. Posebno sad kao ovaj turizam i to dosta vremena zauzelo. Mislim, hodočasnici dolaze, stranci se primaju, sad nemaš vremena nikog kod koga da priča i da razgovara, da su zajedno, da se sastaje kao što je prije bilo.
Koliko to?
250.000 dinara. Onda recimo imate, evo pogledajte ovu gospu, samo izvolite. Malo. To je jako lijep, dobar rad, fin. Da imate nešto iz Međugorja, to je čisto sa ove prirode.
Kad bi imala toliku moć, promijenila bi sve komplet, samo bi ostavila Gospu.
The spiritual life of the parish continues away from the crowds. Prayer groups flourish, often meeting outside and at night. 2 younger girls claim to receive visions and messages from the Madonna. The original group of visionaries is breaking up now. They say that the Madonna has left them to choose their way of life. She has said that she would like them to become priests and nuns, but it's up to them. Ivanka was married just after Christmas 1986. She received her last secret in May 1985 and no longer has daily apparitions. Mirjana is studying agriculture at the University of Sarajevo. Ivan's apparitions are suspended while he does a year of military service. Vitska is ill with an inoperable brain tumor. Her apparitions continue, though she has pauses from time to time. Yakov is still at school. He is shy of the publicity, but he still sees the Madonna daily. Maria, when the apparitions are over, is hoping to become a nun.
Čitanje otkrivenja svetog Ivana Apostola. Ja, Ivan, vidjeh novo nebo i novu zemlju, jer prvo nebo i prva zemlja uminu. Ni mora više nema. I sveti grad, novi Jeruzalem vidjeh.
Srce moje Gospodinu, raste snaga moja po Bogu mom. Šire mi se usta na dušmane moje, jer se radujem pomoći Tvojoj.
Gospodine sveti oče svemogući vječni Bože, I da te o svetkovini blažne Marije vazda djevice hvalimo, blagosivljamo i slavimo. Ona je osjenjena Duhom Svetim, začela jedinorođenoga Sina Tvoga, sačuvala slavu djevičanstva.
Kad pogledamo ovako nemirni smo u sebi, sve nam smeta, ništa nam nije dobro, pogotovo omladina, mladež. Ona bi sve htjela izmijeniti i Gospod bi baš zato htjela da nam da neki unutrašnji mir koji je najvažniji i onda mir za cijeli svijet, jer ona je došla kao kraljica mira. Poručuje ljubav kao prvo, a poziva nas na molitvu, na post, na pokor. Ona ne traži puno. Dovoljno je i jedan očanaš, ali iz srca pa da bude, da je ona zadovoljna.
Isuse blaga i ponizna srca, učini srce moje po srcu svome.
Draga djeco, ja, vaša majka, volim vas i želim vas poticati na molitvu. I, your mother, love you and wish to urge you to prayer. Dear children, I am tireless and call upon you even when you're far from my heart. I am your mother, and even though I feel pain for each one who has strayed, I am quick to forgive and rejoice at every child which comes to me. Thank you for responding to my call. Dear children, the cross was in God's plan when you built it on the hill. Go now particularly to the hill and pray before the cross. I need your prayers. Thank you for responding to my call. Today I call you to renewal of prayer in your homes. The work in the fields is over. Now commit yourselves to prayer. Let prayer come first in your families. Thank you for responding to my call. Many people of all nations will be coming to this parish. I now exhort you to love. Love first your nearest, and then you will be able to accept and to love all who come. Thank you for responding to my call. Turn off your television sets and leave all other things which are no use to you. Dear children, I urge you to convert individually. This time is for you. Thank you for responding to my call.